if we can find that creative task or exercise that gets us in that zone, we got to pay attention to it.
Welcome to the Passion Behind the Art Show. It's all about diving in with individuals to learn the awesome story behind your passion. It's your host, Daryl Pinnock. You can learn more about the project at passionbeyondart.com. Enjoy this week's episode.
I just want to welcome Dylan Menges to the Passion Behind the Art Show. It's awesome to have him on. I'm excited about this. I know he has a lot to share, a lot of wisdom to pass on. So Dylan, how did you get into design?
Good morning. Yeah, it's a fairly easy story, I guess. In that when I was a little kid, I liked to draw, and I learned pretty quickly that I like to draw. I have this memory of walking up to my mom and saying, "Mommy, I want to draw, seriously." And I'm sure there was a lot of prompting before that got me to, get those words out. But my mom drew 6 circles on a page, and then I filled in the faces, and I still have that. It's pretty bad, but that was the start. So you fast forward a lot of years, and through those years, I did a lot of drawing, a lot of lettering, and you get that feedback from people, right? Oh, that's cool, or I like that, or can you draw this? And you just keep. A lot of that is just practice and practice. So you get that feedback and more of that reinforcement, and over time, it just felt pretty natural to stay with that and then continue that into art classes in school, which we had a pretty decent program where I grew up, and then from there, I had the blessing of going to college out of high school. I dropped out. Went to the Marine Corps, and even when I was in the Marine Corps for 4 years, I was drawing cartoons, and which were not always the nicest cartoons. Sometimes they were commentaries on the Marine Corps, and life in the Marine Corps, and life in Hawaii too, which was cool. But after I finished my tour in the Marine Corps, and having dropped out of Ohio State, I realized I want to still pursue this. It still feels like it's me. I had no idea what it was going to be, but I went back to college, this time at CCAD, which is our local school here in college here in Columbus. That's, of course, design focused, art focused, and finished a degree and then stayed in the field. So that's the shortest version of that. So
are you currently working for someone or working on your own?
I currently run a little studio, and actually I'm in what I call my lab, which is, okay, in all transparency, it's my basement. but it works because I can make a big mess down here, which is really nice. And this is literally my one of 2 stations that I have set up, and I'll answer a little more accurately here in a second. But I wanted to talk to you from here because these things behind me are projects that I had to put on the table yesterday to say, you've got to get this stuff done. So these are all metal type pieces that I'm going to hand letter, and I think I'm going to give one away on Instagram here this week, and then just maybe sell the others. And this is for a guy named Modern Weld. These are headlights these are old. Actually, most of them are antique, which is, I shouldn't say that because that makes me an antique because they're about as old as me. But they're headlamps from different scooters and motorcycles. Most of them come over from Europe. And then I'm going to pinstripe that or hand letter that in some way. And then he's going to mount that into a modern LED lamp that'll be mounted on a floor mount. It's really nice stuff this guy does. Matt here in Columbus, Ohio, Modern Weld.
Nice.
So, but back to your question, I started Menges Design about 2 years ago, and I am a direct-to-client design studio. And I say that very carefully because I don't operate as a freelancer. In other words, I don't typically operate for agencies who are representing clients. I like to work directly with the client just because you get that one-to-one relationship. And it's like playing telephone, And I feel like sometimes as a freelancer, which I've done for years, before I did this full time, before I started Menges Design, as a freelancer, you're playing that game of telephone, and that string is a little bit longer, and there's a cup in between you and the end of that thing, an extra cup or an extra something that just makes that communication a little bit more challenging. So I really like being a direct-to-client agency, and we're an agency of two, so we're really small. But we're coming up on our second anniversary this week, actually. Next
Nice.
week, yeah, next week. So
This is your thing. This is what you want to do. What would you say was the biggest struggle in trying to make the jump from working for someone to doing your own studio?
fear is the easiest way to answer that, and I know everybody can relate to that. And people that know me know that uh, I'm a pretty confident guy on the surface, but I've got fear just like everybody else, and I've got a ton of insecurities and a ton of doubt, um, especially when it comes to something like running a business. I'm not a business guy. That's not my forte, or at least it hasn't been,
Right.
because I've always been in that situation where I've been able to, go to an account person or go to whoever and share that challenge or that task with somebody, or delegate it completely to somebody. So the big fear is actually a multi-level thing, which includes the business part of it, knowing that I'm going to go back to wearing all the hats.
Right.
There's nobody to delegate to anymore, right? It's just me and my wife, who's been a tremendous help. She's tremendous help creatively, which she didn't realize until years later. But a tremendous help creatively and also logistically too. So fear's the quickest way to describe that. But truly, man, we could talk for an hour just about all the little nuances and details and things that compound to keep people like us from making these types of adventures happen.
So, what would you say is like some of the main things that got you to be able to do this? Like the top three things.
Top three things to actually launch the business. Uh, I could tell you a couple things that were pretty significant right off the top of my head. One of them was I had a few freelance jobs that, and like I said earlier, I've been a freelancer for years. I've always done some kind of side work. I think most people I know are doing some kind of side hustle thing. But I had a few that were really significant, and the timing of them was significant. All those things were blessings, and they turned they tweaked my thinking, um, got me rethinking about, should I do this full time? And one of the significant things about those two or three side jobs was that there was a efficiency of scale about them that was really rewarding. So up until this point, up until the point of starting Menges Design, I have a pretty typical career path, and with that career path, as it often goes with a lot of people, you do tend to, again, for some of us, move into larger organizations as you progress in your career. You're not at a 2-person shop anymore. You're in an 8-person shop or a 40-person shop. In this case, I was in a 50-person shop. I'd been in much bigger ones before a couple times, and with that scale comes inefficiency. It's just how it works, and nobody likes to talk about that, especially if you own or help operate one of those big agencies. But it's a model for making money in those agencies, and I don't say that to damn them or to detract from the good experience there. It's just the way they work, and it's just part of the deal. I personally was doing these side projects, and I thought, okay, we got that particular project done really efficiently. Small team. And in particular, there was an app for Subaru, and that was the big one. Obviously, a big name, but it was a big one in terms of how small the team was, significant in how small the team was, how fast we got it done. It was about a few month turnaround from start to finish. One stakeholder, small development team, one project manager and video guy who served both roles, and I was a designer. That's it. So I thought, wait a second, if I can do that again, if I can repeat that somehow, it may not be for Subaru, because that was just a massive blessing that came out of nowhere from my buddy Ryan Scott of UBView. But if I could I sustain this? Is it possible? So my head, this is how behavior changes, right? You start in your mind,
Right.
good or bad. And I thought, that's a good thing. I think, can I repeat this? And then there were a couple other side projects that I won't go into a lot of detail about, but and for the sake of time, but the reason they were significant was because in those scenarios, I was doing what I did when I was a kid. I was drawing and I was lettering, and it was in a very free, open scenario, not a lot of guidance parameters at all. And sorry, my cat joined us here. Scoop. But there was a fire there mentally. And the most significant thing I like to share with people about those projects that I think is helpful for folks that are, maybe in my position, like, okay, I'm doing this day job. I'm not crazy about it. I got these side gigs I really like. The big key indicator to me with those side jobs was, as I was doing them, I was willing to lose sleep, skip a meal or two, and actually, you can ask Janet, my wife. I'd skip a shower. I hate to say it, or two, but but I'm in this zone, is my point, and a zone that I hadn't been in for a long time. And when you're in that zone, that's my experience. But I think other people I've talked to have related to this. You get in this zone where you're okay with staying up late because you still feel energized, and you're okay with, and you still have energy after skipping a meal or two. And you just find yourself just, it's like a tunnel vision effect. And it doesn't mean that what you're working on is beautiful or brilliant or the highest concept. But I think if we can find that creative task or exercise that gets us in that zone, we got to pay attention to it. You really just have, and that takes work. You have to try different things. And again, that's a fear issue. You got to, okay, I'm not going to worry about what it looks like. I'm not going to worry about the fact that it's maybe not high concept, but I'm going to try this medium. I'm going to try, drawing on an iPad Pro. I'm going to, whatever it is, go down that road and ask yourself, am I in that zone?
Oh.
And that to me is a big wake up call. It's a big aha moment that you should listen to, because if you can be in that zone for whatever it is that work is, whatever it looks like, whatever you're doing, whatever it's a pencil, laser beam, I don't know, whatever you're using,
Right.
That's a sign that you got to pay attention to, because you're in a place where you are really flowing creatively. And okay, so does that mean, all right, that's going to be a perfect business model for you and you can launch tomorrow? No, of course not. But it's a means of starting to identify what you might be, what you might want to do the rest of your career. Maybe.
Sounds good. But the biggest elephant in the room, what causes the fear, is the finance.
Yes.
What do you have to say about that?
Well, I knew you'd talk about money. Yeah, you're right. It's the big elephant in the room. The best advice I can give for that, and it's not easy advice. Like my buddy Bill says, if this was easy, they'd call it shopping.
All right.
Doing this is not easy. But the best advice I can say is you have to find the discipline to, and this is hard for me, believe me. Again, if Janet were part of this podcast, she could share and acknowledge this. You have to find the discipline to ask yourself, what do I need to let go of in my life financially? Where's my money going now? And what can I let go of in order to really tighten? This is my personal story here. Truly, that what can I sell, ignore, refocus to build a nest egg and get that locked down before I make this launch. It's critical. It's very critical. So again, there's kind of two parts there. One is you have to do that math and say, what am I spending now on the bare necessities of life? I'm not going to sing the song, but what are you spending? And what's that? Whatever that number is, put that away for 6 months. That's hard, but I would recommend that highly, to put it nicely. And two, with that, that can't just be a stopgap measure. You have to seriously and critically look at your life and say, what am I burning up money on? And where can I, just reallocate funds and ask myself, it comes down to this. What am I willing to sacrifice in order to make this dream come true? It sounds so cliche, but it's true. And dude, you and I both know, and again, the podcast isn't all about this subject, but we could spend easily a half an hour, breaking down the things that we burn up money on. $5 coffees. No. What cars? I went nuts on cars for several years, and I finally wrecked this sports car. Is actually next month, 3 years ago, be a 3-year mark. Totaled this sports car, horrible accident. Walked away from it, and dude, it was just this beautiful wake up call, man. A tremendous blessing, because, and this is a side story, but it has a lot to do with money. At that point in my life, it was a pretty tough time, and I had been praying about this car in particular, because when I drove this thing, I was a complete a-hole. I just was. And people that know me know that's true. And that's an indicator, right? Something's not right. So I was literally praying, okay, God, what do you want me to do with this car? You want me to get rid of it? I'll sell it. That's cool. Just, help me understand. And I've been praying that for a couple months, as weird as that might sound to people.
Right.
And to some folks. And again, I kind of cut to the chase here. I was driving through an intersection. I punched it to get through because the light was about to turn. I knew it because I know this intersection well. And I downshifted and just slammed the pedal down. And so the turbo kicks in and I'm launching out. Well, a guy in another Subaru had run a red light, and I T-boned him, blew him into the other street. We all walked away. My car was completely totaled. I mean, just fumes and, liquids everywhere. And the paramedic said, "Is that your car?" And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Son, you sure you're okay?" And I'm thinking, well, you're the paramedic, dude. You should tell me, But anyway, but I walked away from that realizing, yeah, you got an answer to that prayer. And that answer wasn't, oh, we'll have a fender bender and then you'll get it patched up and then you can sell it. No, the answer was, how about we total it and then you walk away from it and now we're done with this subject. That was pretty intense for me.
All right.
And but again, when we talk about the subject of money, I realized I'm done burning up money on vehicles. It's over now. It's like I felt that answer was very clear. Let's move on from this subject and let's deal with the next thing, whatever that is. So, not everybody's story is going to be about a car wreck that changes how you spend money on a particular thing or whatever. But it was a significant one for me. And then again, there's a lot of little things that you just have to be honest about and say, okay, like another one for me is bicycles. Again, I could burn up time talking about I don't have kids, I have bicycles, so that's the truth. And so that's something I had to reckon with. And I have. And it's not easy because I love my bicycles. I love building up these nice bikes. And, I realized that's not your world anymore. You got a business to run and you got to monitor finances because that golden paycheck doesn't happen every 2 weeks. So how are you going to deal with that? You going to go out and buy a titanium such and such discombobulator for the back end of your bicycle? Or are you going to hold on to that cash? See, so that's a long answer, but that's been part of the process.
Man, epic advice. So what's next? What's going on in Menges Design? What's going on? What's next?
Dude, it has been such a blessed roller coaster, man. I hate to say busy because that's such an overblown term. This, that's such a dumb badge of honor in our culture. Oh, you're busy. I'm like, fix it. We've been steady. And right now I'm wrapping up a job for Greater Columbus Convention Center with our partner Heart and Soul, which has been wonderful to work with. And just wrapped up a job for Ohio State University just a little bit ago. I have been just happily slammed with great work, with a variety of work too, mostly identity work, which is my bread and butter, doing logos, building out identity systems for clients. But I've picked up this animation work, which was the Ohio State job and the Greater Columbus Convention Center. It's like a 70-foot video screen animation I'm drawing stuff for, lettering stuff for. So a lot of these vertical static and animation jobs have come up in the last couple of years. I never applied for that. So in terms of where we go next, I really don't know. But I'm just trying to manage everything, which is exhausting sometimes. I'm still trying to balance the workload with quality of life, which is extremely challenging. So like, for example, Janet and I just got back from a 5,000-mile road trip. We drove up to Penticton, BC and back and did a couple races in between.
Nice.
Yeah, it was cool, man. It was a great trip. Have you ever driven cross country?
as much as from Georgia to New York.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
that's a pretty good trek. I've done like kind of part of that. Yeah, I got to get down and do your side, like do the southern tier. You know that whole stretch.
Right.
I have never driven that, and that's our next one. But we just did that, and so taking off roughly 3 weeks to drive 5,000 miles is a big commitment. And with that, and being a small business, my iPad Pro, my Apple Pencil, they're with me, and I was drawing. Actually, the day I finished my so I'm not bragging, but just to well, maybe a little bit, because I got this thing done and it's over, and thank God it's over. It was a good experience, but phew, I finished this World Duathlon Championship in Penticton and made it a good race, and God willing, it was cool. Thankful for that. But that same afternoon, I had to go back to the hotel and get some drawings done. I wanted to rest so badly, but this team has been so good, and I don't want to let them down. So that's just the reality of running a small business. So again, you talk about what lies ahead. It's balancing. How do you travel, and then how do you keep the revenue flowing and stay in contact with clients. I'll be in Israel again for a couple of weeks coming up soon, and so that's a booked deal. So between the Penticton, cross country thing, and then Israel coming up for a couple of weeks, with all that in motion, our friend in Hawaii, our old buddy Lee, said, "Hey man, you want to come out and house sit for a couple of weeks on the Big Island?" I'm like, "Oh man, I can house." And so my reaction is overthinking it, or and setting the wrong expectations. I'm thinking, yeah, I can do work from there. And Janet, God bless her, man, so thankful for her. She stops me and she goes, "Dude, you're not going to get any work done if you're sitting in the Big Island. You could be out surfing, doing whatever." And she's right. So we had to say no to that, which was so hard. So yeah, it's the shortest answer to all this is the road ahead is about balance, I hope, and then the other challenge is just trying to find the right positioning still. Believe it or not, 2 years into it, I don't know if I've done that well. I feel like I haven't. I feel like I've been blessed with a lot of good work, but I don't know what that outside perception is of Menges Design. I don't know if we're just seen as a guy that does a bunch of mural looking stuff, murals and walls, and occasionally logos, or he's just a lettering guy, or he does these weird illustrations on his Instagram. All of that is a tuning process that I think never stops. But I want to make sure we keep that focused, and that's hard. So that's where this year ahead we're going to make some significant changes to the website, and I'm going to reach outside of us a little further than I have, even beyond my current situation, which is having a business coach and having some mentors in place. I'm going to reach out a little further and do a little more digging, work a little harder at tuning that positioning and tuning that message so that we make sure we're getting the right work. And that's, again, super long answer to what lies ahead, but that's where we are.
So if someone wants to check you out, learn more about what you're doing, where do they go to find it out?
I post a lot of stuff to Instagram, so it's instagram.com/Menges Design. That's my main channel for just feeding out sketches, current work. I do very little personal things on there. I really try to keep that a business account, and I'm always looking to follow people who are posting creative work. I'm a big fan of that. I'm not a fan of posting people's personal accounts, but anyway, Instagram. Look me up there. I put a little bit of stuff on Twitter. I'm really struggling with Dribble, because I don't know what they're doing with that scout thing. So I may not be there for long. Otherwise, the main channel is Menges.design. So www.menges.design.
Nice. Well, Dylan, I really appreciate you coming on the show. We've chatted a couple times, and I really appreciate you, man. I love what you're doing. Keep it up.
You too. You too.
Well, until next time, man. We definitely keep in touch, but until next time, you were gonna say something?
I was gonna say, I want to say publicly, thank you for saving my bacon down at Creative South. When we were doing that crazy car thing with Mike and everybody. and that's where we met. And dude, that was just such a cool thing. That's just one of those awesome human moments where you slipped in and helped us out, and what was a moment of need for us, doing a live drawing on a car. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it. It was
Man,
a great way to meet.
you were so focused. I didn't even know you even noticed who gave you it. Appreciate, hey man, it was no problem at all.
Well, you talk about the zone, man. We were in that zone, right? When you got music thumping and people, yeah. So thank you for that. I appreciate it.
Oh man, not a problem, man. Enjoy the rest of your day. Be blessed.
You too,
my brother.
You too, my brother. Thank you.
All right, take care.
You too. Bye.
You can always connect with me at DP Creates on Instagram or Twitter. If you ever want to have a conversation, ask a question, that's DP Creates at Instagram or Twitter. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I would love to get your feedback, so please leave a review on iTunes and keep sharing the podcast on social media. Be blessed.